question of land and its relationship to the people is one of the most crucial questions emerging from the nation's reflective review of its past and its struggling plans for the future. Land. The word is rich in connotations. It means home, country, history, and heritage to some. It means the soil, the earth, the fruitful womb of life to others. Land is wealth, an investment, a container of minerals or fuels, a producer of wood and of cloth and of food. The space on which buildings are erected, or cars are parked, or homes are established. Land is a commodity to be bought and sold, the pawn in a game of speculation in which the rich prosper and the poor are disinherited from the earth. Or land is one of the four basic elements, as essential to existence as air, fire, and water, and therefore the right of every existing person. A national coalition for land reform has been organized. In 1975, they published The People's Land, a reader on land reform in the United States. The coalition members believe ownership of land by those who work and live on it is the key to alleviating poverty. They ask, who owns the land? And they answer, 1/3 of the nation's land is still owned publicly, mostly by the federal government. 2/3 of the land is in private hands. Though there are no adequate national records on ownership of private land, coalition members estimate that about 65% of the privately owned land is controlled by only 5% of the nation's population. In the Appalachian region, called by some the spiny backbone of the eastern United States, the Catholic bishops recently published a regional pastoral letter, "This land is home to me." In it, the bishops call for an action response on the part of all the people of the region to address, among other injustices, the problems of land abuse, land acquisition, and poverty. In the state of West Virginia, the Huntington Herald-Dispatch and Herald Advertiser asked the question, who owns West Virginia? Reporter Tom Miller found that 1/3 of West Virginia's non-public land is owned by about 24 out-of-state companies. Miller reported that in 27 of the 55 counties of West Virginia, at least 50% of the non-public land area is owned by out-of-state corporate interests. In Mingo County, a southern county on the Kentucky border, as much as 65% of the privately owned land is in the hands of 4 corporate absentee landlords. The general unavailability of land for the people of Mingo County and for the nation as a whole contributes significantly to the housing crisis. With vast tracts of land held by corporate interests and thus removed from the market, the price of the remaining scarce supply available is bid up by the growing demand and thus placed out of the range of the poor. High unemployment rates in the industrial cities, particularly in Detroit, plus the boom in the coal business, is having an impact on the population picture of the area. For the first time in recent memory, the Appalachian region is experiencing a population increase. Where are the people to live? At home, where will there be land? Emerging in this period of bicentennial reflection are some alternatives to traditional concepts and patterns of land ownership. One such alternative, an ecological land trust, is being attempted by Edwina Sheppard Pepper and her family at Big Laurel Branch. Edwina Sheppard was born in 1893 in Logan, West Virginia. About 15 years ago, John and Michael Fanning, her great-nephews, joined her. They came as young boys to make the mountains their home. In writing of Edwina Pepper, the Fanning brothers, and the land trust they are forming, Coleman McCarthy of the Washington Post suggested that their efforts may represent the most hopeful news to come out of southern West Virginia in a long, sad time.
ever since I've been here and lived in this home, almost since 1945, probably a little later, I began to find out that these people who were on these little farms now, rented from the large companies, they no longer owned their land. But they were the people, they were the descendants of the people who had fought for this land against the English Indian invasion, you know, from the back door.
I got to thinking about land very seriously, and from then on, I just couldn't let the subject drop. Why was it that people couldn't own their land? Because when we landed here on this continent, the whole idea was that we came for land, and we were supposed to have land. And Thomas Jefferson said, the land is for the people. And all around everywhere, there was nothing but big company land, and that's what these people were now living on. And of course, I began to think about it from many directions. For instance, it came to me that nobody owns land, but really the state owns it. You have to admit that the state owns it. Because if you don't pay your taxes, within 2 years, your land can be taken from you. And that's what had happened to these people. And so then I began to think, how in the world could I get around that? And then I had been to Mexico, and I knew about the Mexican ejido system. After they freed themselves from Spain, you know, they set up this idea that anybody who lived on the land for over 100 years, any family, they had a proprietorship to that land, and they could, you know, it would always be theirs. Why couldn't I do something here in the Appalachians like that, I thought. Well, it was a pretty big order, you know, and with all the companies around us. And then I began to think about what you could do, you know, and then people began to talk about these ecological reservations, and of course that was right, the thing that we wanted, because we don't hunt or anything, and we love the wildlife, particularly after Michael and John came, and here were two boys wandering around, discovering all the beauty of these hills and the little animals, and it was all so exciting. So it was just natural to think of an ecological reservation. And then I began to try to put it all together, and it came out that whenever anybody wanted to sell me their farm, they'd come to me and say, I need some money, you know, will you loan me some money? And I said, I haven't got any money. And then they'll come back again. Well, I'm going away and I need some money to go to Virginia or to go to Ohio or Columbus. And so they began to shove their land on me almost, really. You know, their little farms, 5 and 10 acres. And half the time, you know, they weren't legal titles to them at all. I have to go up, if I did take them, I have to go up and do a lot of court work on them. So I got from the native people the little pieces of land they didn't want, and today it comes to around 300 acres. And it mostly is on the top of these ridges. And I tried to get some of the older lawyers up in Williamson, who had been friends of my father, to help me with this. And all they said it was too difficult, that there was a way of getting these things together, but it was too difficult. It would take them so long, and they knew I just didn't have, said, Eddie, you don't have the money for it, and why don't you just make a will and say that this is going to be, and set it aside. I said, well, the state will take it if I don't make it out just right, you know. And all of a sudden, I began to find out that they were doing this, that it was a possibility to create legal rights to an ecological reservation and to leave it. The way I have done is they call it an enclave. That means that people own it. It isn't just owned by everybody that lives on it. And I'm sure a lot of people have read about that now because it's in the papers everywhere. So that's how it came about. But you see, the thing about it is when I would get a piece of property that I knew had belonged to an old family, I would say to myself, when some one person who understands things and has a little farther view than most people comes to me from that family, well, they'll have a little farm on it. And this will just be perfect, because if they have a little farm on it, and I keep another piece of that property for city people to come in and live on, then the city people can buy from the farmers and get them to build their houses, and, you know, it would all work out in a sort of an overall plan that way. So that's really what I have done. And young lawyers now dedicated to being advocates for causes for the people. A young lawyer has gotten ours together, and we now have a legal ecological reservation, and I've named it for my father, John A. Sheppard. It's called the John A. Sheppard Memorial How is that? JASMER. John A. Sheppard Memorial Ecological Reservation. And anyway, we just call it the reservation, which suits a lot of us because so many people in here have Indian blood, and they just love the word. But it's mostly on the hilltops, but it curves down on both sides of a ridge that's in a big horseshoe shape, and it grows down to a place that is, well, really 38 acres altogether now, where we've set aside for community school. And there's an upper farming, and there's walnuts on it. And so we expect to have a model type school, community school, where everybody who wants to learn something can learn. We're going to call it the School of Learning. And anybody who wants to teach what they know can teach. And so that's one thing we have that is the high point. In January, 2 teachers are coming to start the school in a temporary building. But we think that the people of the creek next summer will start building. I have worked on Big Laurel Branch, which is our locality. It's a branch of Marylebone Creek. We work together as, at first we call ourselves a group, and it's now the Big Laurel Citizens Association. And by appealing to, or applying rather, to the different service companies, we have electrical power, and the gas company has allowed us to what do you call, join their big pipeline, you know, and so we have gas, and the phone service, and everything that is, that everybody downtown has, except roads. And our state and our county have never done one thing about it. The people keep up the roads. We're just this last summer where everybody put in $50, but we need an awful lot of money for roads because they could be sustained here like they are over in Kentucky, for instance, in at the Big Mammoth Cave area, you know, because a gravel road can be a good road. But we have the gravel on the creek, and we have the people who need work, but they can't do that, you know. They have to send off, and if we build a bridge down on the creek, they can't take up the big timbers and make a bridge, you know, just with what we have here. They have to send off to God knows where for steel beams and, you know, the right kind of this and that. So we're for getting away from all that big stuff. The Big Laurel Citizens Group stands for this: self-support on the farms as much as possible, and cooperation with the merchants in our little town of Kermit, and they're really fine people, and they cooperate with us. And it's lucky to have a town like that, you know. And then to keep everything on a small scale, because we point out to the people listening who have read something on this subject, the whole deal now, Margaret Mead is one I know the school children have, you know, read. The whole deal now is to get away from bigness and try to get back to smallness. Some of the greatest economists in the world are preaching this. Shoemaker has written a book on the subject, Small is Beautiful. He's one. And so we're in that movement, and it pleases us. And we're very satisfied with everything about that. Now here at the reservation, it worked out well. We had to have a center. So we decided that we would have it here in our home. This has been our home. The young men, Michael and John Fanning, my great-nephews, great is right, and they built the place out of just the stone from the creek and the mountains and whatnot. And we decided that we more or less had to turn our home, for the present time anyway, over to what we call the center. The center has various departments, we might call it, well anyway, projects. The first, of course, is the mountain call, and they're having such beautiful luck with that because people from everywhere recognize it as an authentic thing. They're not trying to put on anything. They're trying to tell the truth about everything. And right now, beginning this next year, particularly, they're going to run a series on trying to make people understand what they're losing when their mountains are going to be torn to pieces, because we're very much in that anti-strip mining movement. And if people knew their mountains, but they don't know it, you see, so that little paper is very busy doing that. Well, we have a wood shop, and that belongs to the Big Laurel Citizens Association. That will be put up very shortly, and we have the equipment part, so we think we're going to have wonderful things happen in that. David Pierce is, I'll tell you about him first. He just happened in here and liked us all, and he's an artist, just practically a home-taught artist. And David is the one that's putting up the wood shop. And one of the things he talks about doing is making very fine bedsteads, just one particular kind, and carved and everything, and it'll never be repeated. And, all kinds of beautiful things in wood. So we're very excited about that. And, of course, the children who go to school will be trained in that shop. And then the center also has, as I said, the call was the first, the wood shop the second. The women around here, of course, piece quilts, and they do some very beautiful work. But in the old days, the women in here were fine weavers. The grandmothers of some of these people living on the creek were known for their weaving, and we're very anxious to introduce that again. So we have a department we call Thread and Loom Department. And a wonderful friend of ours, Marisa Rose, sent us a very old-time fashion loom. We haven't been able to get it together yet, but we're going to have that part thriving, because then there's going to be a ceramic department, because here we have some of the finest clay in the world for pottery. It's this blue clay. You can just do anything with it. You can do it with your hands and just drop it on the floor. It's fine pottery. And we hope to do some beautiful things. Then, let me see, what is anything else? Just keep branching out. But this, of course, now I have to tell it, it's also a writer's colony and an artist's colony. David decided that he wanted a place here, and so he looked. First of all, my son offered him a place up at the head of the creek, but he came over here to see us, and he liked this whole layout, and so he went around and he found a place on the side of the knob where they scratched a little bit, and out came the spring, and he decided he was going to build his house there, and he has, and it's very unique and very attractive. But David does the little pictures for the mountain call and fits in a little bit everywhere. So he is one of the residents of the call. And then there was a friend of the Fanning brothers that they met when they were going over to Marshall, Michael Rood. He is a writer, and he's doing a book on Vietnam, and we have very exciting ideas about what's going to happen with that book, of course. And so we want to entice that type of people too. But mostly, it's the old, certain people from the old families that I'm so interested in. And just this past year, Fred Fitzpatrick came out and asked if there was a place. And there was, of course. And then Larry Hanna, who is working a little coal mine over there, but he's been here and there. And he's been one of my loves ever since he was 8 years old. And he wants a farm. He wants to have horses. And so it goes like that. I have 2 or 3 in mind that are in little spots for them when they're ready for it. they have to be very special people. You just can't get people in that want to, because there are bylaws to the reservation. Remember, it's an ecological reservation. They can't let hunting dogs go loose. And if they hunt, they have to hunt elsewhere. And they have to protect the forest and the trees and all this business, you know. So the thing, let me say, it's almost like you build a boat just from the floor, and you know it floats, or whatever, the decks, you know, and you know that deck floats, but you have to keep building up on it, you know, and to get a real ship out of it. That's what we're trying to do now, you know, for it. And the greatest joy we get is having the country people come in and talk to us and find out what it is they can do about organic farming, because we're going to start little patches where you use mulch according to that Rodale system, mulching and root stout system, because we've tried it in here, and one of our neighbors, a friend of ours, Rowena Parsley, has done it, and David did it, and it works very successfully. You see, it's easy for women because they don't have to do any plowing and stuff. So there's always something going on, you know, and it's a beautiful life, it really is. And what we think is that the reason why we like to talk about it is we think other people could do the same way up in their mountains. But we know one thing. The reason we can't save our mountains from strip mining, and we have so much trouble, is because the people don't own the land. You know, the big companies do. And this has gotten us into, and particularly the young men, into interest in the land reform movement. And they're very interested in that, and it's going on all over the country. There has to be some kind of land reform and a better understanding of taxes, and not only our practical upkeep around here keeps us interested, but it's that movement too, to think that we can get the land back to the people. And oh, there are so many wise, wonderful people writing about this now, and many, well we know just offhand a half a dozen young lawyers who are just not going into regular careers before the bar. They're going to defend the people, and they're into this land movement, and we're very excited about it all. And we have so much to lose by strip mining, so much that people don't realize. Not only the beauty and the way of life and the ease of survival in here, where so much is given to you, you know, the berries and the nuts and all. But there's the things that people don't understand, and this is what so much we have to dig for and put over. What happens to mountains like they've done over Kentucky, knocking these knobs together where the water is, you know, just, and destroying the springs. The springs are the riverheads. There'd be no Mississippi if there weren't these thousands of springs in our mountains. People don't know this. You know these floods that are going on over in Kentucky since the strip mining? I don't know. Michael has an article in it, in the Mountain Crawl, telling how many more floods there are and all that. But it's simply atrocious. All you have to do is look as you go, you know. And what we want to do, and what we would like to have you help us with, is to get people to come up and see what they are doing. Because if they knew, and if they, the beauty of it all. Now Michael wants to get a new camera and take just all the pictures that he can take of the beauty of this next spring, because, see, maybe, as Rachel Carson says, you know, maybe the last spring. It's very tragic.
You people have to use the equipment. Sure, that's terrific. Where'd you get the equipment? This is, we're working under a grant, but mostly I would like to ask you about... That's great. I think that's... I would like to find out about, I understand that you have worked with videotape equipment, and I would sort of like to find out what type of work have you done in the videotape field?
Oh, a little bit in New York and a little bit in the Philippines and some stuff down in Tennessee. Equipment very much like this, actually. That's a 3400, I believe. What kind of stuff are you folks doing?
This is just a summer project on the history of Tennessee. And since you're here, we'd like to...
I don't know anything about the history of Tennessee, actually.
While you're here, we would like to find out about, the workings of this equipment. And since you're here...
Terrific. Where'd you get the equipment?
This is, we're working under a grant, but mostly I would like to ask you about...
That's great. I think that's...
I would like to find out about, I understand that you have worked with videotape equipment, and I would sort of like to find out what type of work have you done in the videotape field?
Oh, a little bit in New York and a little bit in the Philippines and some stuff down in Tennessee. Equipment very much like this, actually. That's a 3400, I believe. What kind of stuff are you folks doing?
This is just a summer project on the history of Tennessee. And since you're here, we'd like to...
I don't know anything about the history of Tennessee, actually.
Mostly, while you're here, we would like to find out about, the workings of this equipment, since I understand you do know quite a bit about it.
Terrific. Where'd you get the equipment?
This is, we're working under a grant, but mostly I would like to ask you about...
That's great. I think that's...
I would like to find out about, I understand that you have worked with videotape equipment, and I would sort of like to find out what type of work have you done in the videotape field?
Oh, a little bit in New York and a little bit in the Philippines and some stuff down in Tennessee. Equipment very much like this, actually. That's a 3400, I believe. What kind of stuff are you folks doing?
This is just a summer project on the history of Tennessee. And since you're here, we'd like to...
I don't know anything about the history of Tennessee, actually.
Mostly, while you're here, we would like to find out about, the workings of this equipment, since I understand you do know quite a bit about it. For what reason, what brought you into our area originally with videotape equipment?
Into this area?
Yes.
Well, what did bring me in this area with the videotape equipment? Well, Maurice really wanted to play. And I couldn't think of a play. She wanted to have one of those outdoor dramas or something. And I used to direct plays. I still do direct plays. But I couldn't think of a play, so it would be better if we made our own material on videotape, or if I just left a machine here and people could make their own material.
Yes, well... This...
Nice day here.
Yes.
Very pleasant. Think it's going to flood? It flooded here yesterday.
Yes, we had a slight amount of rain.
Mudslides too, right?
Yes, we had...
Mudslides, terrible. Just terrible. There ought to be a law.
Yes.
Mudslides.
To return to our subject, I'd like to ask you, with this equipment, isn't it the type of things we'd like to find out from you about? We were planning on forming sort of a videotape library, and maybe ask you some questions about cable television, since I understand you do.
Sure, ask me some questions about cable television.
Would it be feasible?
I'd like it if you'd ask me some questions about it. Go ahead.
Okay. Would it be possible for an area like ours, with the small population or the scattered population, to have cable television and at a profit? Or, would it at all be possible to have cable television in our area?
No, you got too few people, haven't you? You got something like 5 people to a mile. Doesn't work. Not enough people. You'll have to have more people. Or have to have subsidy. Maybe subsidy for cable would be a good idea.
Well, then the next thing we had planned for some of these tapes we're planning on doing is forming a videotape library where it would be possible for people to come into our area, or people who are not from our area, to find out about our area through looking at some of these videotapes. Would you have any ideas what would be some good ideas for, would you have any good ideas about what the other uses for our videotapes would be?
Yeah, all right. Okay. Yes, but we shouldn't waste time with that. All right, check the thing off.
Maybe you could discuss it.
Mr. Penny, we... No, don't be a CBS thing. Just be yourself. Just be yourself.
We'd like to find out more about you. We're kind of interested in your life and...
Well, I don't like to talk about my personal life in public, actually. It's sort of embarrassing. It's kind of been scandalous. And...
This ain't going to be on TV or nothing, you know. We're just doing it for our own self, you know.
You mean you people are curious about my personal life? That seems really strange to me, that you people are interested in my personal life. I think that's sort of perverse, actually. Now, why is it you're interested in my personal life?
Well, we just think you're an interesting person. That's enough for us to go with.
Yes, well...
Where did you attend elementary at?
I attended elementary school at Jackson, Ohio. And it was a terrible school. We played football mainly and basketball, didn't learn anything.
Okay.
In fact, I didn't attend much.
Then you were just a lay
3 days a week, I'd say.
And you still got out.
Yeah, I got out of elementary school and into high school. That was worse. We played more football and more basketball, and we didn't study even as much as we had in elementary school.
Well, are you married?
No, never been married.
Why not?
The idea just never appealed to me. I have nothing against it, mind you. I think marriage is all right. It's a very good idea, but it never appealed to me. Also, I moved a lot. I've been moving around.
Well, you think you will get married?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Definitely. This isn't a proposal, is it? Is anyone out there in TV world, any beautiful young lady who's rich who'd like to marry me? I'm on the market. I'm very available. You just write Brooks Jones, 400 West 57th Street, New York, New York, 149. I don't cook well, but fair conversationalist.
You make it an awful hard. What brought you down here?
I came down to this area to do some videotape work, or to leave some equipment off so that some videotape work could be done here.
Are you very interested in video?
Yeah, as a tool for what it can do. Yeah, I'm interested in what it can do. The machinery puzzles me a little, but I like what it can do.
How does machinery puzzle you?
Well, I just don't understand machines very well. The uses of video are terrific, like finding a wife, for example. If there's anyone out there in the you know.
Yeah.
I'm a reasonably nice guy, and I haven't hurt anybody yet.
Here's white socks, though.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's true. Yeah. Well, it's been terrific talking to you, and I hope you people have a very good project. And you can just
Quit cameras. God.
What do you do when you don't get sound and it's already started?
Oh, you
Yes.
Thing laying up there. Knowledge all the way around. And we get close up to this stupid thing here, this washing machine. Get a little bit closer to the washing machine. Okay, right there. Now swing back around when you get a good close up of it. Swing back around and get as close, zoom in as close as possible on the.
What?
Turn to your right and get close up at the old wheel bar. Could be up somewhere.
I can't see it.
In there, the cable hanging down and all this.
Where is the cable?
You'll find it in there somewhere. Just keep looking around. These shots are definitely not 20 straight shots, they're about a minute each. You know?
Oh, God, I got your car.
What?
I got the top of your car.
We're just going through some nice soft mud, so don't worry. Just keep going, you're perfectly alright.
Yeah.
Hey, chick. Can you get this?
I tried to check.
Don't. Get over. Get that piece that hole in the bottom of the screen door. Just go around and get the screen door. When you're making a pan, zoom back and then zoom in when you get around to whatever you want to, you know.
I got about 2 things for the same thing.
Okay, go ahead and turn it off. Here we go.
Hey, Martha!
Hey, you can't say.
Now, did you do your zoom in and your focusing?
No, I'm doing
Yeah.
it.
Do that before you turn your tape on, hon.
About 17 to 53.
Wow. Which mines did you work in?
I worked at Egan most of the time and here at Black Diamond in 53 till they shut down.
Wow. And have you always lived right where you live now down the road?
No,
Where did you
I've
used to
lived
live?
all around. I used to live in the coal tank up there.
Wow.
I lived back on the mountain for about 7 or 8 years. But you know where them boys was all killed back there?
Up Buffalo?
Yeah, on that mountain. I lived back just a little this side of there, and that's where my wife was raised at, in that house.
What was your wife's name?
She was an Osmond, Alice Osmond. Sylvia Osmond's girl, the oldest.
Well, you live in some bottomland now, don't you?
Yeah, I do. I lived on Buffalo for about 5 or 6 years. In Hubert Osmond's and Esther's house back there. You know them,
good
don't
friends of ours, yeah.
Yeah, I know it.
Yeah.
Awful good people.
Fine people.
I liked them. I lived there a long time, and then I moved up here, and I've been here now 3 years.
Well, we were just wondering, you know, it was raining hard again today, and there was a really bad flood about a week and a half ago. Did that do you any damage?
We worked the whole week to get in the swinging bridge. There's a swinging bridge down there below that bridge I was telling you about, and there's a big drift on it. We had to almost put it in new and wash the other one down. We had to pull it back and fix it, and then work on the road. The night on the inside, it's coming down the road, the rink is filled up, and we're going to have to fix it again and have a dozer or something to come in there and dozer that branch out so we can get in and out.
Did it flood your house or garden?
Well, it got over the garden, but it didn't hurt it. And my neighbor over there, he's got all them bottoms on this side in corn. It got over them. But
What, do this seem like it's about the worst flooding that's ever been done in this area?
This is the worst that's been up here since 29. But there's one in 29 about.
Why do you think it was so bad this time? What
I
made it
couldn't
so
say
bad?
about that.
Do you know what caused it to
No,
be so bad?
I wouldn't know.
Yeah.
It's just nasty rain. That's all. You understand when it comes, it pours sometimes. Then it poured that time.
You know, when I was
when it comes, it pours. But then it poured that time.
You know, when I was, last week, when right after the flooding happened, I was standing up by Tackett where there was a big slip up there. And it seemed like a whole lot of people up there were saying that part of the cause was by...
Well, there's a lot of that now. It's caused by these here strip pits where they're filled up and big ponds of water, and a big rain like that breaks them loose and they all come off.
Yeah. But you don't think the flooding of the creek was due to that, huh?
I don't think it was caused this time, but it has been since that. You can tell with these slips and slides like that, not down now, it's around everywhere.
Do you think strip mining's done much good for this country?
I think it's one of the worst things we ever had in this country. That's what I think. I might have been working today if it hadn't been.
Why do you say that? How would you be working today?
Well, the mines wouldn't have closed down if they could have competed with the strippers in their deep mine coal. They couldn't do it, and they had to close that. That's what closed them out. The strip mine could produce it so much cheaper than they could. Why, that took the miners' jobs. Some people don't see it that way, but that's what it was.
Well, some people say strip mining brings jobs to the area, but you're saying maybe it took jobs away from the area, huh?
That's all it done. They never used nothing on just their own crew and some of their favorite people. They'd have the most of their crews is with them or some of their people that got jobs, no outsiders. Once in a while, they'd hire a shovel man or a dozer man or something that way. But if you wasn't some kind of a mechanic or could run machinery, you didn't stand no chance.
What do you think about, it seems like I've heard about some people who've, you know, been joining groups like that Sockham group, you know, to try to stop strip mining. What do you think about them? Do you think they're doing good or bad for the country?
Well, I've not paid no attention, but I'd be glad it had been stopped before it had ever started. It's too late now. They've got this country wrong.
How many people do you think in this valley feel like you, and how many feel different?
Well, I don't believe there'd be hardly anybody without it. Somebody into the stripping business or some of their close relatives or something that would feel any different than what I feel about it. They know what it's about. People know, and they know what it's done to the country. And he ain't only now, he'll be from now on. He'll just keep it coming. Our creeks is filled up, and our streams and polluted and everything else from it. And he'll keep it coming off of these mountains as long as time stands. There ain't no way to stop it, just like that, Well, I'm sorry, I guess I...
Well, this is great. Would you like to see yourself back on
That didn't hinder me much.
What you got in your pack there?
I've got a little milk and a little bologna, and first one I had to feed my wife and my dog.
Wife and dog?
He eats bologna and he won't eat no kind here, and my wife's got to have milk, and he had to have bologna, and that I had to
Costs
come...
more to feed your dog than your wife.
Yeah, I had to come to the post office anyhow, and I just walked on up here and got my stuff. And I thank y'all.
Well, you know, we're sure going to come and talk to you some other time about your work in the coal mines. If you wouldn't mind talking with us a little more sometime.
I don't mind, you're there in the world.
That's great.
I went to Middlesboro last Sunday, you know how it rained over there all day. And took an examination for that black stone. I reckon that's what it is. And then on Thursday I had to go to the top. So I believe they got all on.
Yeah.
Who failed? Right in. Hey, Marcy. Where you at, Bobby? Huh?
You been down here with that tree up there?
Billy's out.
Well, he's out, yeah.
Well.
I hope. I ain't out, Alan.
No.
Ask Leroy, he's down, boy.
It's fine.
Let me run anyway, best sport.
He missed gloves out here.
Hey, Bob, get mine, Trey.
Okay, cut it out for you.
You see it? Yeah.
10 inches zoom out always.
What? That ain't no way to be. Where's Leroy at?
He's out there sitting in the grass, Becky.
I get one in red, I swear.
I can't zoom in to you. Where the ball is?
Can I hold the camera steady?
I can't.
You don't, see when you play it back on TV, you like to jump it, hurt your eyes. Okay. Oh boy! Let me pitch to you. You ready?
He's on my side.
Oh.
Come in and get Bobby Warman, Lacey. Move a little bit over here to the right. How many limbs did that ball knock out of that tree?
I just pitch it real slow.
Pitch it and then it'll stop and then go off.
Did you hear what she walking her hole over her face?
Yeah, I got her.
I'm almost got to She's gonna hit me through the Good baseball, Bruce. Nice batter in it, Bobby.
I think you just do better just about to hit it, Bobby.
Let me fix that. I'll be better off.
No, we wouldn't out here, though.
That's hot. Good. Two. Okay. Two. I don't know what I thought it was saying.
You get that.
I get back. Six. You'll never go. That was no fire. That's strike one, too. Oh, it's out. Yeah, that's three. No, it's two. That's two? That's three. Bobby, Bobby, that's three. Hell, we just that's two. Okay.
Backer.
It's my back when we go in. Teresa made the last down. I always make the last down.
Do that.
Woo!
Jay! Wait a minute, come on up this way. Wait a minute. Ma'am? Yes, ma'am. Hey, what wasn't that for? Wait a minute, Lee. I gotta get these. Smile, Lee. Look at us, Lee. All right, I got that. Keep on scuffing. Get him now, Drew.
Red, what are you with that ball?
I ain't worried about the ball right now.
Hey, Red.
Leave a look at me. Yeah, flip him.
There's snakes over there in case y'all didn't know.
Who's that? That's sound, Deborah. I ain't worried about that ball.
Smile first. We're taking your own camera.
Huh?
We're taking your picture. Smile for it.
That's good enough, Emma. Oh, that's good.
Where'd you hit the
there.
ball?
Wait a minute, don't mind me.
taking your picture.
That's good enough, Emma.
That's good. Red, you're Clemson fan.
And then she watched around and she said, I got shot.
Oh, Red, come on.
Oh.
Come on. Turn the camera off.
I do here.
Boy. What's your body? Maureen, it wouldn't go over there. It's somewhere over here. It's somewhere
Wait a
in
minute.
here.
Wait a minute. Oh God. Wait a minute. Okay.
Oh.
As big as thing's ball, you can't, don't feel
How
bad.
far out there did it go?
We don't know. Red hit it, that's Red.
Lee looking for ball.
He's a zooming in on the ground.
Without glasses in it. I got you, man.
All right.
I'm in a bushy.
Hey, find him ball.
Very good, Cliff. Wait a minute. All right.
We got Leroy climbing the fence. Red,
Who's that?
Around behind. Well, here's cameraman.
Wait a minute. Don't jump yet.
Don't come.
Okay. Okay.
Here you go.
Come on down.
Oh, you get this?
Yeah. Shoe stuck in fence.
Did it get into your foot? Shoot. Did it?
Oh, where are we going to go watch it at? Go it. Go it. Come on. Let's go watch the field.
Okay, let's play it back.
Time to see big. Can we go watch it too?
Yeah.
Turns it off.
Oh, you don't have to have the trigger in? No, see, all you have to do is click it.
Yeah,
But you don't
okay,
have to
I
hold
got
it the
it.
whole time.
I got you.
That's about that.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, go. Yeah.
Now you have to go back to another trip. They do this every night, Briscoe?
Keep coming in close. Come on in right here. Tell it, what's that tooth? Look at that for.
Hey, you guys want
Red light on there? I like it. Body,
Wait a minute, man. Be still. Back up a little bit.
Let me see. Get red. You work that thing out there.
Wait a minute, Punky. Oh, I got you, baby. Woo!
You folks that where it gets clear.
Yeah. Where you at, Ty? You walking on the equipment. Hey, that's good. Don't move. Do something. Do something. Turn around that way. Turn around that way. You boys fight or something. Come on, I got you both. Yeah, man, I got you. Oh! I still got you. Look out, Jerry, behind you. Yeah.
Let's play it back, Chris.
Wait a minute. Smile them. Oh, I
Now,
can
when we all come on, we get you, Red. We gotta watch what's fun.
That's fun.
Let me back this son. Come on, that's what you get him fight. Come on, Jail him.
Run, Red.
Alrighty.
Did you get that, Jerry?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Man, you get blocked. What's wrong? You get that?
Hey, cut it out.
Just like that. Okay. Bye-bye, Becky. Bye.
The red light's still on.
Okay, then pull the trigger again.
Oh gosh, that's what you want to do. I thought I'll get your finger. It's not focusing. I'll put one right here.
Okay, you're a little bit too close to get a perfect focus, so you have to start your taping right about here.
Oh, that'll break him.
The one right here.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay. Okay, now maybe zoom out a little bit. You shouldn't have to change your focus.
All right, come out. Hard staff back.
Are you getting tired?
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, it's
Why don't you just turn it?